All right, bang, bang. Another NFL week is here. We're going to be going over our top plays, go over a few different games from running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, even the dreaded tight ends and defense. Any thoughts on this week before we jump into the positions? Dustin, let's start with you, Dustin.
Yeah, I mean, this week's a little more, digging into metrics a little bit. You don't have any of those easy, 55 plus type over unders. So going to be a little harder to dig in and see, who you like and how you do the stacks this week because of the, not as high over under. So interesting week, a little different than what we've seen. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Price?
I'm ready for it. I think most people are going to target the, Falcons, Saints, and Packers, Colts games, but it's a fairly even spread for the over-unders on the other games. So it's going to give us a chance to kind of dig in, maybe be a little contrarian, and hopefully attack and make some money this week.
Yeah, for sure. I think what's pretty intriguing as we go into the quarterback position, all the top quarterbacks, running quarterbacks to like the Thursday night game is going to be fabulous, but your top option is only 7,300. And the Lamar Jackson is so crazy to think after the season he had last year, he's fallen down to a $7,300 quarterback, top of the slate. I think throwing some stabs there is definitely worth it. But you have some value down low. You have some value. You have Mr. LASIK himself, Jameis Winston, first overall quarterback, won a championship in college. I think that could be an interesting play. What do you think about Jameis this week? I know you said this is a very popular game. I think this is the only game. Is it above 50? I think it's a 50.5 over under. Falcons defense is a funnel for passing. I don't know. He has great weapons. Michael Thomas, Kamara is a big time out of the backfield.
I don't like it, mainly because of the Saints, right? If it was just Jameis, I'd be like, that's fine. We know he can sling it. We know he can throw it. They have a ton of weapons. But you got this guy behind him or to the side of him or wherever he is, Taysom Hill, that could, eat into some of the fantasy points, whether they get down in the red zone and it's Taysom Hill's show or, he comes in, maybe they do a 70-30 and he's throwing passes. So to me, it's kind of risky. But sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit, right? But for me, I don't like it.
I don't necessarily mind Jameis this week. I think they came out today and said it's going to be mainly Jameis and they'll sprinkle in Taysom, which, it's coach talk and Sean Payton being Sean Payton. They could get down to the 10-yard line and then Taysom Hill comes in for every goal line snap, and instead of Jameis having a chance to throw a touchdown, it's basically a wildcat formation with him and Kamara back there. But there's other better plays than just going to Jameis, but he's very interesting just because of the weapons, like you said, Chris. I mean, Kamara's a monster out of the backfield. Michael Thomas is back and healthy, and high over under. So, I mean, people are going to go that route for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can see him being 18% owned, which is pretty crazy. Maybe not 18%, but I can see him being 15% owned because of that price is so good. 30 for 30, right? 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. So another route I like to go, we have Big Ben, Price's guy at 6,700. Once again, I liked going against Atlanta secondary. I like going against Jacksonville, which is 31st in defense against the pass. Pittsburgh's run game has kind of fallen off. Yes, they might absolutely destroy Jacksonville, but they're going to score. I think Big Ben's going to have 3 touchdowns. So I like Big Ben here this week. He did good last week, and the Jags are not good on the pass game. So the game script could get away. That they could blow the Jags out. But I like Big Ben and the run back option with DJ Shark is at a really good price this week. D Johnson is the receiver Big Ben, I really like with him. He keeps getting injured every time we play him, so that's unfortunate. But what do y'all think about Big Ben? Is that a viable option?
Always love big fat guys with a beard. But I think I played him last week. It was my best lineup having him with Deontay and Claypool, because they're not going to run very often. Like Connor's a decent running back, but I mean, the MO with them has always been let Big Ben do whatever he wants, sling the rock around the field. And I think even if they get up, he's still going to throw because they don't really care. And I mean, them still being undefeated, they're going to put their foot on everyone's throat to make sure it stays that way as long as possible. The only thing that sucks is you have like no rushing upside with Big Ben.
Yeah, no rushing upside at all. To go back to Jamie's, man, I'm just upset that he's 5'9". I thought he would be in the low 5,000 range on DraftKings. Like Joe Burrow is 5,500. I know he's going against Washington. It has a pretty good defense, but I wish Jamie's was around that $5,500 range. That's another drawback on him. Tua is another guy I like, not just because he went to the University of Alabama and lit it up, but he's been catching fire. It's hard. They spread it around a lot, so it's hard to figure out who to pair him with. So when we get to the running backs, we kind of might want to go that route. And there's that over under with Denver is not the best either. So I don't know. The one play that I think I'm going to fade is, I know I don't want to fade someone cheap, so I'm going to fade. My one fade is going to be Aaron Rodgers at 7K. Indy's front seven is good, and so that's the route that I'm gonna fade. What about you, Dustin? Where are you at quarterbacks that we haven't touched on yet?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we touched on Lamar. He's the top quarterback for this week, and obviously hasn't really had a huge game this year, and we're still kind of waiting to see that. Tennessee's been getting lit up, so I think that's a good opportunity. Baltimore has been struggling a little bit, and so I think that's a pretty safe play, more of cash with some upside there. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's kind of like Big Ben. He's going to get his yards most weeks, his touchdowns, especially when Devontae's out there, who I think has caught a touchdown every week except for one, and then most of those are multiple touchdown weeks. So great weapons there. Deshaun against New England. Obviously last week Texans Browns was very low scoring. The weather impacted that quite a bit. Pretty strong winds, and so I look for a bounce back game from him. New England's defense isn't what it's been in the past, and I just feel like Deshaun is going to have some success there. And then their defense is so bad usually that the other team's going to score, so it's never out of touch. So, Matt Ryan against New Orleans. We talked about the New Orleans side, but New Orleans defense, especially their secondary, isn't great. Their defensive line obviously is good, the pass rush, but the cornerbacks and those guys struggle at times, especially Julio. I mean, he has a huge matchup advantage over the cornerback, and he's one of those guys that could go for 200 yards this week. So kind of the top end guys I'm looking at. If I had to fade one of these guys up here, it'd probably be Kirk Cousins, 6,000 and up, because you just can't trust the guy. He could have the best matchup in the world, and he could screw it up. So he's played pretty well of late, but just he has those games.
I think with Kirk Cousins, the game script is a big thing, and this game could be negative game script for the passing attack, and they can run the ball. And some things with Dalvin might be a little hurt, so that the backup Madsen might finally get his due. The other guy I was hoping to tee it up there for you was the Cowboys with Andy Dalton is a very interesting play. I really like it because of the receivers are really cheap from Gallup in the mid 3K range. Cooper is $200-$300 cheaper than what I think he should be. And then you have Lamb right at 5K. So I know they don't have Dak back there, so the receivers just keep dropping. But I think there's a lot of good value on Dalton stack. I don't love Dalton by any means, but they are, I think, 10-point underdogs, maybe 9 points, somewhere around that range. So they're going to have to be passing the ball. I don't know. Dalton could be a play.
These are the same weapons that have been there the last 3 weeks.
Garrett Gilbert had no problem lining it up.
Yeah, that was. I think Pittsburgh came out flat. They're like, we're playing the Cowboys, easy win type of deal. So who knows? Price, what do you like for quarterbacks?
I didn't know that Garrett Gilbert lit it up last game out. That's surprising. Wow. I would say I'm glad that Winston is priced where he is. Otherwise, he'd be just chalk city. Everybody would use him. I think that's a pretty fair price because we saw last year. I mean, he's a good fantasy quarterback. He may not be a good real life quarterback. He's not going to win you a bunch of games, but he can put up some fantasy points. But I love Lamar and Rodgers this week. I think they're the top two for a reason. Lamar, I mean, I used him twice. Once he had his best week against Philly with 32 fantasy points. And then he had a mediocre game last time out against New England, but it was awful weather, like 40 degrees, windy, and pouring rain where you could barely see. And he still did decent. So I don't mind him. I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on Cam Newton. Just because, I mean, my Texans are so bad. Just god awful on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's built good rapport with Jacoby Myers. Bird's been decent. You got Burkhead and White out of the backfield. I just feel like this is a game where if Houston continues to score, they're going to have to keep up, and Cam Newton should be able to keep up with going against a bad defense. I really wanted to use Joe Burrow when I saw he was 5,500, but digging to the stats, Washington not only has a good front seven, but they're allowing the least amount of passing yards in the league per game. So it's kind of tough. Kind of tough to attack that. But I do like your call on Tua. I think he's been really accurate, really good. He spreads it around. So I think, maybe even running like him or Lamar or Cam naked wouldn't be a bad idea.
But
can you spell Tua's last name, Price? Tagovailoa. Try it. Try it. Come on. Don't look at it, Price. Don't cheat.
THGOV.
No, oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my God. A chip challenge is being sent to you for cheating.
Let me interject here with Washington secondary. Okay. Yes, they've been pretty good all year, but maybe that's because of the division. I mean, let's be honest.
No, let's be honest. They have a bunch of Alabama players. Well, and they have a good
They've only played the division 4 times.
Yeah, I know. But Stafford lit them up last week.
But they played. Yeah, I guess they haven't really played. They played what? Detroit, Baltimore, Cleveland.
Yeah, no real gunslingers.
So it might not be. That could be a low owned spot to go because Burrow, they're going to throw a ton. Mixon's out and he runs.
All right, before we move on, like we're spending a lot of time on quarterback, but quarterback is a very important position because it's end up who you stack with. But Dustin, what is the cash quarterback play? Just at first glance, looking at it.
First glance, it's almost got to be Lamar. Just given his price. I mean, so generally in cash, I'm looking 3x players, and so he's going to score 22 points basically. And we go back and look. I mean,
that's what he's averaging for the year.
Yeah, he's done it over 50% of the time. And, some of the games he didn't were, maybe they got up, I think, against Cincinnati when they clobbered them. So there's a lot of rushing yards. But other than that, I mean, 22 last week against New England, 31 against Philly a couple games ago, 26 against Washington. So, he's pretty safe because of his legs, and so he's not going to burn you. And so that's probably why I would say I'll first glance Lamar. Depending on the build, you might have to go down to somebody else, but I'll get into that later.
All right,
Someone mobile like Andy Dalton.
Let's move on to running backs, and we'll let Price go first. You're definitely going to go with the low tier option in Duke Johnson, right?
No, something mad at
Is it too soon? Too soon?
It makes it even worse that I'm a Texans fan. Just go out there and we score 7 points in a game. I was actually very happy. My wife had me out doing like family pictures and shit, and not having to watch that game. I would have been very sad.
So what happened with the Duke Johnson? Because he sets up perfect. He set up perfect last week.
They didn't throw him the ball. I mean, he got 13, 14 carries, but no targets out of the backfield in a game where it's bad weather. You think little checkdowns would be the route you go, but I guess they wanted to throw it to Cooks and Cobb instead.
All right. So I wanted to lob up a low price, for you to start with the low price, because I know there's somebody you like down here. Who do we got down low price?
Salvon Ahmed for the Dolphins.
There we go.
I was very mad at myself. You can ask these guys in our Slack if you're in there. I was furious that I overlooked Breda being out and not using Ahmed last week. He was min priced. I mean, I freaking used him last year in college football, DK, to win money all the time when he was at Washington. And just not paying it, just forgetting about it and not paying attention to that was a big mistake. But I mean, I think he had 84% of the rushing shares. He also gets a little bit of work in the pass game. So that at 4,800 in a plus matchup, because Denver's just decimated with injuries. I think it's a really good play.
Denver averages giving up 4.4 yards per carry. They're 24th in rushing yards per game and 24th in run defense. I think that's a great play in lineups that you're not playing two at your quarterback position personally.
But I think everyone's going to immediately go look at DeAndre Swift this week. He had a great week last week. He's priced reasonable and has a fantastic matchup against the awful Panthers defense. So naturally, it makes you want to go immediately right back to him, click him, and plug him in because he's only 6,400. I really like Zeke this week. I know we kind of discussed it beforehand, and y'all both gave me, though, why are you talking about Zeke look? Because he's averaging like 6 fantasy points a game for the last month. But I have a gut feeling it's one of those weeks. Minnesota I think they're overrated. Their defense is not that good. And Dallas is off a bye. You got fresh Zeke, who he's been hearing it, that Pollard's outperformed you. You're not living up to your contract. And he's going to eat. I mean, he's over 80%
does he really care?
rushing shares.
Do you think he cares, though? Like, the season's over. It's just a wash. Does he care right now about any of that?
I think if you're in elite at what you do, you care. Most people do. I mean, that's why you have these awful teams like the Jets. You still got people on there who are trying. Why wouldn't Zeke?
Well, a lot of them, they're trying because they are putting tape on the field to stay in the league, because the NFL, not for long league is, they got to put good tape out there. So Zeke could be a good play. I don't like, they're 10-point dogs. Their offensive line has a lot of issues. I don't know.
I don't think they should be 10-point dogs. Minnesota's not 10 points better than Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to bet the game, I would bet the Cowboys. If you give me 10 points, I'll take the Cowboys.
Because I also think the Cowboys offense, I mean, everyone was on Dak to start the year, right? Yes, it's Dalton. He's not Dak, but you still have Zeke, Cooper, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. Schultz has been a good fill-in at tight end. Like, they have an elite offense. And with having the three receivers out there, they're not going to be able to stack the box against him, so it should open it up. I feel like, one, he's not expensive. He's 6,500 when he's usually around 8K. So we're getting a decent discount on him. And if you're not going to go up and pay 9,000 for Kamara or Cook, I think it's a good option to say 1,500 and drop down to him.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also a good pivot off Swift, who's probably going to be pretty chalky. You know, he got 73% of the snaps last week, is taking over the Lions backfield. Carolina bottom 5 defense and everything. So it sets up for a great Swift week, and everybody knows that. Everybody's clicking the Swift button. It might be a good thing, right around that. A nice tournament pivot to Zeke. Do you think Dalvin Cook at 9K? I mean, he's averaging 140 yards per game, just at least getting one touchdown, and Dallas gets gashed versus the run. They're 10-point favorites, so that would incline them to run the ball more. They get up by a touchdown, 2 scores. So yeah, that positive game script as well. But there's little rumors out there of Dalvin being a little banged up. So what do you do with Dalvin this week?
Minnesota actually has the 4th worst O-line to D-line matchup of the week on the slate. So, yes, Dallas is – their secondary is god-awful, but they got Van Der Esch back, Jalen Smith, and Sean Lee are there. Like, their defense is okay. Their secondary is garbage. But, I mean, you've seen Dalvin Cook crush everybody. They're going to load the box. So all you got to do is load the box, shade a safety over to Thielen, and then put your best corner on Jefferson and pray to God he doesn't beat him one-on-one. And I would much rather make a rookie beat me than Dalvin Cook.
I dig it. I like the fade play of Dalvin Cook. It might be difficult to actually not press that button because he's been lighting it up, but makes a lot of sense. Dustin, where do you sit with all this? What's your take on the running back spot that we either hit on or haven't hit on?
I mean, I think we kind of agree on most points on running backs. Guy, I don't know if we touched on him yet, but McKissick, 29 targets the last 2 games. I mean, holy cow. And those are both with Alex Smith under center. So you got to expect, I mean, obviously 15 targets and 14. You temper it down probably 8 to 10 targets, but still for a guy, was he
5,200.
5,200. I mean, if he gets 8 catches for 60 yards, he pays off pretty much. So, and with that volume he's seeing, it easily can happen. They're playing against a high-powered offense as far as, being able to score quickly with the Bengals. So, I see him, being a good play, especially in a cash type setting, because how much Alex Smith uses him, and he's going to get points, as opposed to somebody like Duke Johnson last week, which he was the 3-down back, but we weren't quite sure, how he's going to be used. We had a good idea that ended up not panning out, and it hurt a lot of people because he only had 1 target. So I just think there's some value there. You touched on the Dolphins running back. I like Damian Harris for New England. I think we touched on him a little bit, but he got 22 carries last week. Obviously, he's not involved in the passing game, so there is that factor if they get up on the Texans, but the Texans can score, so I don't see that being too much of an issue, because he's gonna, get chunk yards against that defense. At the top, Zeke, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I like hearing Price try to talk me into him because I just hate everything about the Cowboys right now. But Mike Davis, I know he dudded last week, but he's a 3-down back. I mean, can't have recency bias. He's 6,800, but he's going to get all the work. And, you just got to kind of put those feelings behind you. They're going against Detroit, who, as far as their defense hasn't been great. So he's going to be more involved than he was last week. And then
the line, just to touch on that, the Lions average giving up 4.7 yards per carry, which is 23rd. And then they are 30th in run defense. What's interesting about that, though, is when you look at Dalvin Cook's matchup against the Cowboys, I know when Price made a good point about the linebackers being back, but they give up 5 yards per carry. So That's pretty interesting that I think Mike Davis and Dalvin are really good picks. But
Kenyon Drake inflated that stat.
Yes, he did.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. And so I like him. I like Miles Sanders again this week. I know he's 6,900, kind of in a fluke week last week. Both backups scored, right? Boston Scott had the long run on one of his 2 touches, I think, or 3 touches. And then for whatever reason, they gave it to Clement on the goal line.
After Miles got him to the 5 on the previous play.
Yeah, I mean, he just gashed him. So, it's frustrating. The snap shares there, the opportunity share. He's dominating the backfield snaps, the carries, the pass routes. So kind of an anomaly as far as that goes. He easily could have had both those touchdowns and he would have had a monster game. He's getting chunk plays all year long when he's on the field. He's been injured, on and off, but when he's out there, he's been really good. So, and I think one of the weaknesses of Cleveland, they have a great pass rush, but sometimes that hurts you in the run game. So I like Sanders in that spot. Chubb, I mean, he got back to it, right? I mean, I don't know what it is about him. They were leading the league in rushing, and then he went out and Hunt had all these great matchups, and we know Hunt's been good elsewhere. I mean, for the Chiefs and even on the Browns, and it just wasn't the same. And then they get Chubb back, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, we can run the ball again. So, I like him against Philly. Derrick Henry's in a good spot against Baltimore. I mean, there's a lot of running back depth this week as far as matchups, and it's kind of come down to who you're taking elsewhere, where you want to pay up, where you don't want to pay up. So that's kind of my take on the running backs I like, though.
All right, let's get down to the receivers. But before we do, just got to say, if you're not following, if you're not subscribed, what you doing? Subscribe for the free content. Check us out if you want even more free content on the DFS Dads for both Twitter and Facebook. We give out showdown plays in golf and NFL. NBA is coming up. We just announced tonight that, yes, we are going to be bringing out some NBA picks. So if you want, best time to join right now, dfsdads.com/join. We still have that promo code Masters from last week. So I'm going to take that off the site whenever this weekend. So you have a couple days to check that out. Let's get on the receivers, though. And Price, lead us off.
Oh, there's so many amazing plays this week, I feel like. I mean, I played Adams at 9K last week, and you're like, he's 400 cheap Price. What are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to play him again. He's just so good, even with an ankle injury. Julio, great matchup, and Ridley's hurt. Dustin's guy, Keenan Allen, just PPR machine, gets like last week he dudded and he still had like 4 for 40 and touchdown. Michael Thomas, great matchup. It's going to be, whew. I will say, like the guys right below that, I don't really like AJ Brown or Ridley this week. Ridley obviously is probably not going to play, but and then we already touched on, I mean, if we like Dalton, obviously I also like the Cowboys receivers, particularly Cooper. Cooper, I think, has the best matchup. And then I know Thielen scored 2 touchdowns, but Jefferson's way more explosive. I think he's in a great spot for the Vikings. If I'm going to fade Cook, I'll probably use Jefferson to attack that game. What's really tough for me is deciding which Pittsburgh receiver to use, because they have 3 of them who are averaging like 11 targets a game the last 3 weeks. So it's kind of Russian roulette there. I think I'm going to go Juju just because I believe the other 2 will be more popular, and it kind of gives me some leverage. I believe he has the best matchup. And then we were just talking about Burrow. Higgins had a monster game, but I love Boyd. Boyd just destroys people in the slot. I feel like he's going to keep doing it. He's an elite slot receiver, and now you have Burrow who's going to throw 50 times. I think it's going to be pretty darn hard to stop that. What is crazy to me, would you have ever thought T.Y. Hilton would be 4,200?
Just fell off a cliff.
And I don't want to click him, and he's 4,200. Like, it's
Damn.
amazing.
Yeah, that one's a weird one because he's been so good for so long, and he had a good year last year, so it's just kind of like,
It's very strange to me. And then, where'd he go? I just looked. Alshon at 3,700. I don't know if he's going to play much. I don't think he played very many snaps last week. But, 3,700 for Alshon. We know what he can do in the red zone. I just feel like with Ertz still out, he could be a sneaky play, but I don't know if I'll go there. I'd really like to see, the line coach talk leading up to Sunday about how much they'll actually use him. What about you, Chris?
Justin Jefferson is the play against the Cowboys, and then I also like Amari Cooper are the two that I like. And when you go up top, Julio Jones without Calvin Ridley usually explodes. I think there's one game this year that it did not happen. I don't like the matchup as much against New Orleans, but 7,500 Julio Jones is a very good price. So off the top of my head, that's kind of where I'm leaning. And then also I like D Johnson from the Steelers. Every week I don't play him, he goes off. So if I play him this week, he's probably going to have a concussion or injure his ankle or who knows what. Another player is DJ Shark. 5,700 is the lone bright spot in the Jags. I know, once again, going against Pitt, tough spot, but there's a ton of great plays. You named a bunch of them. Jerry Jeudy, his air yards, he's been exploding. It looks like he's questionable. Miami's defense, once again, another tough spot. Their defense is really good. But off the top of my head and the little research I've done on the receivers so far is going to be Minnesota and Dallas. I love how cheap Amari Cooper is. And that's kind of where I'm at. Down low, if you really, really want to go down low, you also have Gallup in the 3K range. So that's where I'm at so far. What about you, Dustin?
Yeah, so I'm all over Julio. People see that he'll probably be going up against Marshawn Lattimore, but Lattimore ain't as good as he's been in the past. I think Julio has a pretty big advantage on him as far as, a rating score, things like plus 50%. Could be wrong there, but I think it's around 50% advantage, which is one of the biggest of the entire slate, even games outside the Sunday game. So I'll probably be all in on Julio in my cash game. I like not so much on Keenan this week just because his price keeps going up. I think he's a safe-ish play. I liked him better when he was 6,200, when I was telling you how to plug and play him every week. But 74 is just the ability to bust there because he's had 3 touchdowns in 3 weeks. So bust in a sense of not reaching the 3X that I kind of referenced. Terry McLaurin, the dude's just been balling, he's had 3 quarterbacks and he's on a dreadful offense for the most part, and he just has produced all year long. So going up against Cincy, I think he's going to get his 8 to 12 targets and do his thing there. Y'all know the Pittsburgh receivers. Deontay's my boy. Been on him all year. Like I said earlier to these guys before we started, he has 2 games where he got injured real early in the game. And then he has 1 bad game against Baltimore where he had 3 targets. But outside of that, it's been like 12, 11, 13, 14, all 10-plus targets. So Big Ben loves him. They kind of use him Antonio Brownish back when he played. Same type of stature, same type of, ability in a sense of how they use him. So really like him, still at 5,900. I like Crowder. He's kind of we talk about Boyd and Keenan Allen, those slot guys always with the mismatch. Crowder's kind of that same class, and they throw him the ball all the time. So, you can't really go wrong there. If he hits pay dirt, then it's even better. Going down, I think Parker, the volume was there. He had the most targets. You look at it and say, okay, 7 targets, that's kind of okay, but you got to look at the overall. How many passes did they throw? How much target share did he get? So that all that stuff is there. I mean, they didn't throw a ton, 25% target share. So, I like that because the volume increases, the targets are going to increase. So, like Price said, Boyd, the Cowboys receivers, I think, are great GPP plays. You just don't know. I mean, one of them might go off, 2 of them might go off. It might be Schultz. Who knows? With the Cowboys or Zeke, like Price said. So more of the MME type stuff. And one guy I'm really high on, and I picked him up in my season-long fantasy, was Jacoby Myers for New England. Cam Newton seems to love the guy. He's been the leading receiver the past 3 weeks, basically since he's kind of come on the scene, and they're going up against a Houston offense that's going to score a lot. So I think he'll be relied on. He showed that he can live up to the hype the last couple games, and he's cheap, 4,900. So I think that's a guy that can get you a lot of value, hitting 4 or 5x.
He made us some money on Showdown the other week too.
He did. Yes, he
Good.
did.
Dustin's captain of the week. The one little sneaky play that I'm liking at the receiver position is Hollywood Brown. He's been opening games. He's been a dud, but there's going to be 1 or 2 weeks where he's going to win someone $1 million, and it could be this week. So I like Hollywood at 5,900. The 5K range receivers I'm in love with this week. So Price likes the top end guys. It sounded like earlier. I love the 5K guys from D Johnson, Hollywood. There's a lot of good value there, and that allows you to pay up at running back, especially if you go with someone like a Jameis Winston or a Tua or something like that. So that's kind of where early on so far we are all at. Let's briefly touch on the tight end and defense because it's getting dark at the tight end spot, like real dark. Other than Kelsey, it's getting real dark. And someone that you think would be amazing every week is the Oakland Raiders tight end, who's a complete dud. So where we're going, I think is it almost like defense? It's just worth punting the position.
I think so. If there's no Kelsey, I mean, like the only 2 people I'm looking at are Rudolph and Logan Thomas. Yeah, they're 32 and 3,300. There's 1,600 difference between them and Mark Andrews and Jonnu Smith. And what's the difference between them and Logan Thomas right now?
What about Hunter? What about Hunter Henry?
I don't. So Herbert would have been my fade at quarterback for the week. So I don't really see Hunter Henry doing much either. I mean, he scored a touchdown for the first time, all year last week. So, I mean, he'll get you 3 for 30.
He's Waller-esque, if you will, as far as his production. Now, he gets targets. He gets like 7 targets a game. But the dude, I mean, let me look. 30 yards, 33 yards, 33 yards, 23 yards, 23 yards, 39 yards, 50 yards. That's his production the last 8 games, I said. So, I mean, they're just dink and dunks. And so, to pay up when you can get Logan Thomas that kind of the same, floor, then for $1,000 cheaper. I'm kind of with Price this week on the tight ends. You even got Gesicki that's 4,300. Like he had one huge week and has been pretty crappy, and he's 4,300. He's the 6th highest tight end. Yeah,
I keep wanting him to be lower priced and just play him at like 3,700, but they keep pricing him.
Yeah,
too high.
How we want him to play.
I will say, if I know Tanyan is hurt, if he misses, Jake Sternberger for the Packers would be a plug and play at min price for me.
Hey, last time we plugged and played at Green Bay, it was Tanyan, and we were just early on. Remember, he got
0 points.
And then he went off for like 6 touchdowns the next 2 games.
Yeah. which is
'Cause I believe
unfortunate.
Sternberger has at least a catch in 5 of the last 6 games, and they drafted him, I think, in the second round out of A&M, where he was super athletic and balled out in college. But that's only if Tanyan does miss, because Lazard's back too, so kind of muddies the water there. But to get someone who actually would be involved at 2,500 would be hard to pass up.
Yeah, and let's. Yeah, I mean, I think punting tight end is the way to go. And if you really want to know what we're gonna do there, sign up at DFS Dads. We do a breakdown, a deep dive breakdown of each position, and then on our deep dive come Saturday afternoon, and then you can ask us questions in the Slack, because as the week goes on, we'll figure out who gets hurt, who's not playing. I think Swerve Nerve Smith is going to be out. That opens up some value there, as Price was saying, but it's almost important to punt tight end because the defense, we love playing cheap defenses. We were blessed with being able to play Washington week 1 and make some money at them being min priced or way down there. To now this week, oof, what Price? Who we got down low there at the $2,100 range?
Jets.
No, I don't think y'all are going to agree with me.
Cowboys.
You're going to have to take that no off your hat.
The Cowboys.
Because I think they'll sack Cousins 4 or 5 times. And Cousins has been known to shit the bed and throw some bad picks.
Yep.
So if you can get 1 pick, 4 sacks, they pay off. Even if they give up 35 points, they would get 4 points and go 2x.
Well, here's the good news is I like another 2,000 defense, not the Cowboys, the Jets. Jets. So their defense isn't bad. They haven't been bad all year long. Their offense has just been freaking god awful, right?
I mean, they have gone negative their last 2 games.
Hey, that doesn't matter. We're looking at this week. They're $2,000, 2,000 DK dollars, whatever you want to call them. And so you look at the matchup, right? They have a 6% advantage in the pass, being the Chargers, and a 3% disadvantage in the run. So there's not that much disadvantage. Herbert is a rookie. They have bad games. And so I just think at 2,000 for a punt defense going against a rookie, and I just think it's an opportunity where you might get some,
he eventually has to have a bad game, right?
Eventually, yeah.
Well, I mean, he had a bad game against the Dolphins. They did the shake defense where the linebackers and everybody was going back and forth.
I remember using that in Madden.
Yeah, that's literally what you do in Madden. It's crazy how like Madden's turning into real life. And so he was shook. Like their offense line did a good job picking it up a lot, but Herbert was shook. So maybe the Jets are going to do the Madden shake defense and get you some fantasy points. But well, I'm with Price on that.
They're going to get sacks, and he's thrown 6 picks. So
yeah, min price. You just hope they don't give you negative. There's nothing worse than going to a defense and they're giving you negative points. You're like, oh my gosh.
But basically, you have to look at like the mid tier I like is a Dolphins at 3,400. So you'd have to look at it and see what does the $1,400 difference do for me at a different spot. So obviously, it's nowhere on tight end. We're just going to punt that anyways. But if it doesn't move you up enough to make it like a drastic difference, I don't know if I would necessarily go down all the way. But I mean, it does take you. So like y'all both like what Deontay Johnson, who's 5,900.
Yeah.
If it allows you to move up to Michael Thomas, I mean, or Julio Jones, like if you can finagle that in there, I think that'd be worth it.
Can't really compare my boy Deontay. He's underpriced, so he should be up there.
I mean, he's no Chase Claypool. I was really hoping you would say Chase Claypool because I said Juju and he said Deontay.
We're picking everybody.
Yeah.
Who do we like? Everybody.
The Steelers.
None of us like Big Ben, though.
Minus James Conner. All
And
right.
Ebron.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Be sure to come back. If you stay this long, you're an OG. And we are going to be doing our stacks of the week, which is by far our most popular video every week. There's a reason for that. Check us out there. Once again, the DFS dads, become part of the family. And once you become part of the family, make sure you join the Slack and we'll answer any questions you have. Let's make some money.